Yeah, everything's being recorded on the Rodecaster. And
Okay.
so, the audio is, and the
All
video.
right, then I'll.
Okay, so I'm recording the video.
All right.
Recording the audio. And we do this ceremonial synchronizing clap at the beginning of all of our shows. And we know that there's like a 2-second delay, so we all try to clap together, and it's mostly hilarious.
Yes.
Clap
It's
five times.
5 times. Yeah. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Perfect. Okay, we're recording.
It's the horror movie series. Oh, sorry. It's the horror movie series that will haunt us forever. We're talking to Ted Pfeifer, co-writer of Harvest of Fear and Path of Evil, which means it's a special clapback episode of Portland at the Movies.
In a world, in a time, in a land of eternal beauty, all that stands between a city and a disaster. In a city where anything can happen. If you thought you had seen it all.
And there we go.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Portland at the Movies. My name is Todd Workoven. I am joined, as always, by Mark Middleton. How are you, Mark?
I'm really well today.
Good. And of course, Brian, the Unipiper Kid. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm still hanging in there.
Good, good. Well, we have a very special episode today with guest Ted Pfeifer, who was a co-writer of the two movies that we've reviewed, Harvest of Fear and Path of Evil. How are you, Ted?
I am doing fantastic, and I am very happy to be here today.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. So the way that this happened is that when was it? Maybe a month or a month and a half ago, we got back when our Facebook page still existed, which hopefully I'll remember to mention that at the end of the show. But we got a message from you, Ted, asking if we would ever talk to some of the creators of the movies that we, quote, hated. And so all of us on the show, as we received that, panicked and wondered if you were someone that we should be afraid of or what was going to happen. So we talked back and forth, and it seemed like it would be a great opportunity to have you on our show. So I guess the question is, how did you come across our show and listen to the episodes?
So I was looking at, I went back and I watched Harvest of Fear and Path of Evil. I don't know why I did that, but I was doing it. We're all locked in our houses, right? And then I went on the Google and started just searching Harvest of Fear and Path of Evil and started finding these random YouTube reviews that just, 1 out of 5 stars, which I think was fantastic. And then I just stumbled upon the podcast and listened and absolutely just fell in love with it. And then so I listened to Harvest first, and then the one on Path of Evil second. But I think one of the best lines that I think came out of it is, and I don't know who said it, but one of you said, "I'm never talking about this movie again." And so
that's tough.
To make one of you do it, I figured I would reach out, and now you're actually talking about it. So
yeah,
that was Todd, I think.
Yeah,
I believe it was. And after you initially contacted us, I did go back and listen to both of the episodes. And actually, it's really funny because I believe after all of the shows that we've done maybe 35 or 40 at this point. And I do think that Harvest of Fear is my favorite episode that we've ever done, ironically. But we were not very kind. So, but before we kind of get into our complicity in being terrible people that judges other people's arts, why don't we kind of back up and find out a little bit about you, Ted? What is your origin story, as it were?
Oh wow, look at that. Back in 1985, as a sophomore in high school, I got my first job working at the Southgate movie theater. So in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And worked in movie theaters, started as, serving popcorn and drinks, to tearing tickets, to selling tickets, to being a projectionist, to an assistant manager, to being the youngest general manager of Act 3 theaters back in it would have been 90, 91. And I left there and I ended up going to work at Blockbuster Video and managed a bunch of Blockbuster Videos. Left that, went to bookstores and managed bookstores. Went from there and went to a place called Rent Track, which sold videos to video stores. So I've been in kind of the movie business, since the first job I ever had.
All of those things were my dream job growing up, by the way, and none of which I ever got to do. So congratulations on living my best life.
There you go.
I used to do work for Rent Track back in the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're just located down by Portland Airport, and
Yep.
I would write code for the website. And
nice.
Stuff.
See, it's all full circle. So when I was actually working at the bookstore, that's when I wrote my first script, and I still have it. It's in just a spiral notepad that I hand wrote a screenplay, and went to Mount Hood Community College, got a degree in television production, and so that kind of just kept me going that way. And then the craziest thing happened. I get kind of poached from Rent Track by someone to sell real estate. And so he hooks me up with this builder. And within the first week of meeting the builder, he's like, "Hey, I'm an actor." And I go, "Hey, I'm a writer." And he goes, "We should make a movie." And I go, "I got a script." And he goes, "Send it to me." And a week later, he goes, "I got the money. Let's make a movie."
Oh, wow.
So that was the beginning of Harvest of Fear.
Wow.
Now, as you say, I'm listed as co-writer because my brother, Chris, is listed there as well, because he and I wrote a script called Who's Killing the Kids in Clarkstown? And it is awesome, and it would be great to shoot today, but that's the one that I wanted to use for Harvest of Fear. And he said, "No, I'm not. I don't trust you to make this movie." So I basically kind of took parts of that to write Harvest of Fear. My brother really does not like the fact that his name is associated with Harvest of Fear.
No.
He has denounced it. He's like, "No, that's yours. Just take it. It's yours." So that was basically the origin of me starting working in a movie theater to this kind of, one day conversation that turned into going to shoot a movie.
Now, does your brother have any sort of career in the movie industry today?
So he used to. So he used to be like a first AD, like on Dr. Giggles, and the TV show Under Suspicion that was shot here. So he worked on a ton of different stuff back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And then anytime I do something new, he also helps me out. Now he's one of the owners of the Barrel Room, the piano bar down in downtown. So
Interesting.
yeah.
So you have this script then and so who is the person that you met that suddenly was able to hand you a movie? Your coworker? Who is this person?
So that would be the Jake Barker in the movie. So Justin Ament,
Okay, yeah.
is a home builder, and so I was working with him, and he was the one, and he was an actor, and so he's like, "Hey, I've got some money. Let's make this movie." So that was kind of the start.
So did you guys have like a crew? Was this just like a Scrabble? Like how when you're moving from the script to getting it put together, what did that look like?
So it was fast, obviously, but once it was written, we one of our producers, Michael Jones, who's worked on a ton of stuff as well. He got us hooked up with the crew, and we had a full on crew. We did all of our casting, did a bunch of different casting sessions to make sure we hired who we wanted to hire. We decided Ryan Deal, who plays Billy, had this Matt Damon looking vibe, so we thought, what the hell? Carrie Finkley was had just acted in Elephant, the Gus Van Sant film, right before that. So as we were going through casting, I mean, this was a legit filmmaking experience, even down to just location scouting and hiring everybody.
So was this your first experience in like actually making stuff, or had you been doing things up to that point outside of writing, or is this your first foray into it?
So I worked on a movie for USA Television called Fatal Exposure, and that was mid or maybe late 80s, early 90s. And so I was on the swing gang for that. And then I actually, in Dr. Giggles, I drove a car. And I'm in it for about 4 seconds.
Wow, nice.
Which was pretty impressive. And so I've just kind of always been around, but this was the first time actually, writing it. And when we decided that I could, put myself in one of the roles, of course, I beefed up that role a little bit. So this was my first acting gig too. So, but again, it was, hey, how can we make something that's fun and see what happens?
So then did you have other roles outside of then you being the script writer and then your acting part? Did you have like a day-to-day role in the production?
No, that was it. I was just on set pretty much every day and just made sure that, I was kind of hanging out. I was, I guess, an associate producer or whatever you want to kind of label that. But it was just like, okay, I'm the writer and I'm one of the actors. And so I kind of did that.
So then how does Brad Goodman get involved? He's who directed it, correct?
Yes. So he and Justin knew each other. And so he brought Brad on board to direct. And I had no issue with that because I'd never directed anything before. So, it's like, yeah, let's actually have a director. So he came on board and pretty much the script was pretty much shot the way it was written. So I was pretty happy about that. Path of Evil, that's a whole nother story and just a mess.
I want to get to that, but before we do, I'm curious about like your original vision for what the movie would do once it was made. Did you envision this going to theaters? Was it going to run the circuit, or was this supposed to go direct to video? What did success look like in your mind?
That's a loaded question. No, I think so. First, the goal was let's make something that's campy and fun and goofy and, still kind of have that 80s slasher thing to it. But we were thinking, because I'd worked with Rentrack, and we were thinking, we'd get in video stores, things like that. We went down to film festivals and things down in California, tried to sell it. That type of stuff. We ended up, it was funny because Harvest of Fear we sold and it got distributed internationally all over the place, but we did not get domestic distribution. And then a year later we made Path of Evil, because who doesn't make a sequel less than a year after you just made the first one? So we did that, and we actually got domestic distribution for Path. And we said, hey, we've got this other movie, Harvest. It's actually the prequel. And so they ended up buying that as well. So then we got domestic distribution too. But there's nothing cooler than walking into a Hollywood Video or a Blockbuster and seeing your movie on the shelf, and you take the box away and somebody had rented it.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was somebody rented it.
Very
so that was success. Success to me as a filmmaker or a creator or anything is talking to you guys. The fact that you watched it, you ended up having it sounded like an amazing time talking about it. But the fact that something I did got somebody else to talk or enjoy something, I mean, that's awesome. It creates moments. So listening, because again, I listened back to the 2 episodes we did it, and on this show, we like to have fun. That's what, we're all about. Do you think we were unfair to it? Oh God, no. No, you were spot on. And that's why I love it so much, because it is, I mean, I'll talk about our breathing corpse.
Yes.
And yes, the fact that she ran around with her shirt off for, I don't know, 8 minutes at the start of the movie. And whenever I go back and watch it, I always forget that it was really that long that she was doing that for. It's
like when you watch The Room and you forget the first 20 minutes of The Room is just nothing but Tommy Wiseau sex scenes.
I'm just like, oh my God. And when I have people watch it and then they go, did you realize that? I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. But So we're shooting the scene in the coroner's office, which I loved because Dr. Carpenter is wearing his fishing vest over his, doctor clothes. And so they're standing over the girl. They whip back the sheet. It looks like she had already had been looked at by the coroner, yet she's still wearing her underwear. So go figure. So we're watching it, and remember, this is early 2000, so 2003, 2004. We're watching it on this little monitor in the back, right? And we're like, is she breathing? And we're like, no, that looks good. Yeah, no, she's not breathing. So cut months later, now we're editing, and the screen is maybe a 18-inch computer screen that the guy's editing on. And we're like, yeah, you can kind of tell she's breathing a little bit. Cut to the premiere that we did at the Hollywood Theater, and now you're on a big screen. You can tell she's breathing, and the whole audience erupts in laughter. And at that point, I knew that I had it. Like we did it. Like this was going to play because the crowd was into it. It was unintentional for her to be breathing, but it hit the mark. So, but no, if you guys watch it, you were talking about it. There are so many little mishaps, flaws, things in it that you guys just nail that made it so fun for me to listen to it.
That's great. Well, and to be fair, even putting this Skype conversation together has been like riddled with technology errors. And anyone who's ever made anything, let alone a video or a movie, 10 million things go wrong all day long, and it's just compensating and doing the best. So to try to pretend that we're expecting something, but it's fun to see it come together, and I have had a great time down this path of evil that we've been on.
Yeah, our movie selection is somewhat limited given the subject nature of our show. So to have something like this that we can latch onto and have it be the gift now that has continued to give, there has definitely been some fun that we've been able to squeeze out of these films, even though we were pretty sure we had closed the door on them.
It was funny to hear myself say, and I'll never talk about this again. And this is the third year of my life that has been consumed by this movie.
Love it.
Awesome.
So how did you guys end up in Estacada?
So when we just started, we wanted small town, wanted someplace that we could kind of take over. They literally treated us like we were Hollywood. Free coffee, they just look at us like we were like the Hollywood coming into small town Estacada.
Oh yeah.
And the sheriff station was City Hall, so we took over City Hall and made the sheriff station out of that. Like the restaurants that we shot in, they were super nice.
Where was there was one cafe, and then there was another that was kind of like a bar restaurant that we thought was the Buffalo Gap, but I don't think that's the case. Where was that?
No, the bar was I want to say it was called the Safari Club.
Okay.
And then the cafe was just right down kind of on Main Street.
Okay.
But yeah, they let us shoot the coroner's office was a chiropractic office that we just kind of converted into the coroner's office, and put up as many taxidermy animals as we could find. The Harvest Fest party was was at a senior home. And so that is why basically we just shot in that big room and then went upstairs to the hallway, and shot that the kill scene in the hallway, which I love the fact that you pointed out, when he dies, the camera pans up to the men's room sign. So that was all me. It was in the script that is what was going to happen, because that was just the gag of the fact that he was just trying to go to the bathroom, man. Yeah. And next thing you know, But actually, one night we shot super late one night, and they let us just crash there. So most of the cast and crew just crashed in some of those rooms.
And didn't
this
they
is
call you the Hollywoods?
They did call us the Hollywoods.
Yeah.
Yep.
and so
That's
there was
so
actually seniors living there at this time.
Yeah. So we had certain floors that we could shoot on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That
So
was a rager.
great.
it was an amazing party.
So had you planned on a sequel, or like, because we had postulated on the Path of Evil, because there was a budget increase between the two movies, and so I postulated, and it sounds like it's sort of true, that you guys sold the distribution rights, got a little money from that, and kind of went forward using that money. Was there a plan before that, or is that how it just kind of ended up?
When we were finishing shooting Harvest, we were having such a good time, we said we should make another one. So the first one wasn't even like in the can and edited yet. So it was just like, hey, let's just go make another movie. It'll be great. The problem we ran into was I had written this amazing script for the sequel, in which I killed off Billy and Stacy within the first 8 pages.
Oh, nice.
And so it was going to be this completely different story. And Brad and Justin did not want to go that direction. And so they decided, so we, all three of us kind of tried to write together, collaborate a little bit. And then at one point I'm just like, you know what, I'll give you one more pass on the script, and, cut me a check, and then you guys can just, write the rest. And so that's why Path of Evil kind of has the campy horror stuff that I wrote, and then this weird love triangle thing, and then the weird professor book writer thing. So that was kind of what happened with Path of Evil. And so Harvest of Fear, I stand behind that movie because it is fun. It's campy. It's goofy. It's a mystery. A lot of people try to figure out who it is and don't really know who the killer is until the end. And then we break the freaking fourth wall. And then Path of Evil to me is just, it's almost 2 hours long. We shot like 26 hours of footage for that movie. And so
Wow.
I'm tempted, and I have it all. So I'm tempted to do a writer's cut.
Are you going to release the Snyder cut of Path of
Exactly.
Evil?
Yes. I downloaded some of the footage and recut like the opening, 8-9 minutes of it. But it's just such a pain.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
Yeah.
I can't do it. So that was what kind of happened, why we ended up doing Path of Evil.
That's interesting. So then you can probably clarify this as nobody else can. So in Harvest of Fear, at the end, and I'm assuming anyone listening at this point has either heard our episode of it and saw the movie. There was, so spoiler alert for anyone watching. What would you say the motivation was for Billy? Because I kept bumping up to, they want more bodies, ... profit, and I wasn't sure what the ... was.
So his dad was the we want more bodies thing, right? Because if he does more work, then he gets promoted and goes off to the big city.
Okay.
Again, I don't know why a town the size of Devil's Lake has its own coroner. Or
Who gets paid by the body, apparently.
Or why the hell the FBI never came in when there's these mass killings happening. Or the fact that the sheriff can stand there and say, although there have been 7 murders, we do not feel any are connected. So
cause for alarm.
But no, so Billy's motivation basically was he was just going to follow in his father's footsteps.
Okay.
So there was really no, nothing else.
I think I just kept getting tripped up on the math of how more bodies equaled a better coroner's placement, something. But I'm not familiar with the coroner's path to success, so maybe that's.
You wouldn't understand.
I would never understand.
Call it the coroner's code.
So did the experience of filming Path of Evil turn out to be as good of an experience as filming Harvest of Fear?
No, it was we butted heads a lot. I didn't even sit through the whole premiere. It was just it was one of those things where you make something and you have fun doing it, so you're going to make the next one, but everybody's egos just get bigger and bigger after you make the first one, and so now it's sequelitis, where it's got to be bigger, it's got to be better, it's got to have more stuff, it's got to do this, that, and the other thing. Where I was more in the camp of, let's just keep it how it is, and you know, because what was wrong with the first one, you know? And so we tried to. So anyways, yeah, the whole script, the writing process in the second one, once I kind of handed it off, I just kind of stayed away from it and just did my role. And that's why you see Lee Silver disappears in that movie. He doesn't, I don't think my character doesn't show up until like 12 or 13 minutes in, and then disappears for a good hour plus. So that wasn't, you know, in the script, I was in it more, but you know, is what it is.
So then after Path of Evil, you do Lockdown.
Yep.
And then I lost my place. So was there a point where you were hoping that you wanted to do this full time, or was it always just like, it sounds like the fun thing to do with friends and like do these projects? Like where were you headed at that point after Path of Evil?
After that, so I've written, probably finished scripts about 16, and then probably have another 10 that are just portions. So writing is my passion, filmmaking is my passion, but there's this thing called wife and kids and having to pay the bills, and so I actually have to have a real job. So like, it's funny. I mean, I did location manager and transportation on Cabin Fever when they rebooted that here a couple years ago. I was Sean Astin's assistant on a movie called Bigger Than the Sky that he filmed up here. So I hung out with him in his trailer for, you know, a good 2-3 weeks.
Oh, that's cool.
And his mom was Patty Hearst was also in it, or no, it's Patty. Oh
yeah, I forget. I just heard this too.
Patty Duke.
Patty Duke.
Yes. Yeah. So she was there. I met her, talked to her for a little bit. His dad, John Astin, you know, we talked on the phone to him. Sean was just a great guy, but it was just, I've always kind of found my way to get on movies or work little kind of different side things on them. So it's always been fun. And then ended up writing and directing and producing Hands of Time, which I did a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it looks like all of a sudden the stuff you've got in pre-production and coming up is all of a sudden there's lots of stuff there, which is exciting.
Yep.
So what is Hands of Time?
Hands of Time is a thought-provoking, faith-based, beautiful movie about a man who loses himself and finds himself. Okay,
nice.
Whatever. It's actually it was funny because I had written a thriller that took place in a bar. I was going to shoot at the Barrel Room at my brother's bar, and Justin Ament, again, so he's the lead in Hands of Time. So he played Jake Barker in Path of Evil and Harvest of Fear.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Is this the movie that stars Circus Peanuts?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I totally watched this.
What?
I totally watched this, and I was beside myself that not only Circus Peanuts like were just briefly mentioned, but like play a rather large role in this film.
Yes.
So yeah, I remember watching it. I enjoyed it.
Love it.
How did you find it, Todd?
I forget now, because we must have talked to you, and it must be somewhere.
It's on
I was
YouTube.
able to watch it. Okay, that's probably where I found it then.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
No,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
The funny thing about the Circus Peanut thing is, I've only found them at Walgreens, and I'd go in and they had like 2 bags, and so I bought the 2 bags of Circus Peanuts, and we would shoot on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And so I'd go in on the weekend, I'd buy the Circus Peanuts, we'd shoot The next weekend I go back in, I get the 2 bags. And after the 3rd week, I went back in and suddenly they got like 12 bags of circus peanuts. Because that's how inventory works, right? In a store, like if they see something moving, they're going to, order more of it in. So I felt horrible that I made Walgreens, probably buy way too many circus peanuts. But as we know, a circus peanut will last forever because it's just sugar and food coloring.
Yeah, I literally gave them to my mother the last time I saw her as as a gift. That and Necco wafers. I
love Necco wafers
for my mom.
Oh yeah.
But yes, it was funny you mentioned faith-based. I was like, a faith-based movie with circus peanuts may as well have been co-written by me. So I was very intrigued by that whole Venn diagram.
Yeah, so that was a fun one. And the other cool thing about it too is, since we were shooting in a bar, normally when you shoot in a bar, you have to turn all the bottles around, because you can't show the labels. So what I did is I went to all the local distilleries and just said, hey, I'm shooting a movie. Here's what it's about. We're going to be very responsible about, no drinking and driving and no, things like that. And would you be willing to donate a couple of live bottles, so a couple of real bottles, and then just empty bottles that we'll just fill? And so I had Aviation Gin, had all the New Deal vodka, had kind of all those different distilleries were able to kind of just step up and donate stuff. So I felt it was kind of a, my little way of giving back to, Portland and to what we do. So
that's the secret to free booze. Hey, we're filming a movie.
We're filming a movie.
That's why I needed those live bottles.
Gotta sample the product.
Yep.
Wow. That's so funny that I totally watched Hands of Time.
So
you're the one.
I am the one.
So where does that leave you right now? What do you have that you're working on and that you're hoping to do next?
So after all of the amazing reviews, podcasts, and feelings towards Harvest of Fear and Path of Evil, I just want to say we've heard you loud and clear, and I am currently writing the 3rd one.
Yes.
Applause.
Last Friday, I sat down and pounded out 32 pages. And so the first third is done. Lee Silver is back. Jake Barker will be back. We have some other surprises of folks that will be back. This is one of the most fun things I've ever written because I'm writing for 3 different audiences. I'm writing for somebody who's never seen the other 2 movies. I'm writing for somebody who has seen the other 2 movies, or I'm writing for someone who's maybe just seen one of the 2 movies. And so people that are going to watch it are going to come from different points of view. But really the exciting thing for me is the fact that I talked about this original sequel script that I had. A lot of that I'm able to bring back into this one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I'm not telling you to write a Scream-like opening where Drew Barrymore gets knocked off using the Unipiper instead of Drew Barrymore. So, but you always could. Or if you ever need, I've been a corpse before, as I've mentioned, so I have experience. I can breathe on a table just as good as anyone else.
Believe me, when we start this thing up, I will be inviting everybody who has ever had a comment or a review or got any sense of enjoyment out of those 2. And I'm going to invite people to be extras and be in this thing because it is, it's fun, and it will, the closure I think that it will deliver, not only for me, just, be able to say, hey, we did it. But I think for people who watch them will get a lot of the silly callbacks and things like that to the first ones.
Well, we would love to do a set visit when that happens.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
So,
I'm looking at Estacada again too. To kind of keep it that same feel. I still have my sheriff's uniform.
Nice.
And it kind of fits. So, but again, it's been 15 years. It also takes place kind of real time where it's, 15, 16 years later. So I'm not messing around with any kind of, age hijinks or anything like that.
that kind of fits the cycle.
Yeah. And the other funny thing too is at the end of Path of Evil, where the kid wakes up, young Jake
Yeah.
wakes up, which would mean, and I never knew that they did that until I actually saw the movie on DVD. So if he woke up and the whole thing was a dream, which would have meant none of that happened, which would have also meant none of Harvest of Fear happened.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on there.
It's getting very like Terminator in its timeline.
Totally.
How, like we need a big wall with the strings going back and forth and like who is what and
Yep.
oh my gosh.
But no, okay. Can I read a couple of the notes?
Oh yeah.
From your.
Please.
Okay, here was one. This is a terrible movie. A thing to hate. One of you asked one of the other, "Are you really trying to defend this movie?" This movie is so dumb.
Defending.
This might all be me so far.
Yeah.
This show is really going down here from this point. Longest topless scene ever. Flopping around in the breeze.
I believe that one was me.
A dude peeing can just stop or something. Bro dudes came out a lot.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, the men's room sign. I made that. Yeah, so that's just kind of some of the.
Wow.
Craig T. Nelson body double. Some reference.
It was because and I forget his name every time. The guy who was the sheriff in the Goonies.
Yes.
Kurt Hansen.
Kurt Hansen.
He looked like a mix of Craig T. Nelson and Jesse the Body Ventura
yes.
to me.
Which is a fantastic line.
So that was Kurt. How did you guys find Kurt? Since he just shows up in like half of the movies that we watch.
Again, when we were doing our casting, we were one of the casting directors was just like, "Hey, how about this guy?" And we're like, "Cool." And we didn't realize who he was until he was on set. And somebody's like, "Hey, you were in Goonies," and then it's like, "Oh shit, awesome!" But super nice guy. Yeah, he was a blast to work with. And all the cast was just and crew were great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just fun to work with.
That's cool.
So
wow,
yeah.
Listening to our own material back like that, now I have a new vantage point of what it feels like to be the subject of one of our movies.
No, it's funny because I also stumbled upon this guy in Toronto who did podcasts on both Harvest and Path.
Oh,
and
wow.
He also broke down, like went line by line of the movie almost, and figured out that when the kids are saying they don't want to leave because they've already paid for the rental of the house, even though their friends just got murdered.
Yes.
He broke it down to like they were saving like $162 or something based on the 8 people staying at the house. And so I was like, oh my God, that is amazing. Like but there's so many, and that is one thing where we just like, as the writer, I just painted myself into a corner.
Right.
And so I had to come up with a line, and I came up with that line on set of, well, we've already paid for it. They're not going to give us our money back. It's just like, Jesus. But it was like, okay.
You got to find a solution. Yeah, you got to do something.
And I also didn't realize until this other person pointed it out was Stacy actually lives next door to the house where everybody's getting murdered.
I was wondering about the geography of that town.
Yeah.
It was a little confusing.
Yeah. So I'm still a little thrown off by that. But.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
So in what ways is making these films shaped the rest of your life?
Shaped the rest of my life. One thing, it's created friendships out of the people that I worked with. 2, it's created things where I can share stuff that I have done with family and friends, and they can kind of enjoy, they know how passionate I am about it, and then they can see how much I enjoy it. And they also, they can see that I understand the stuff isn't like the greatest thing in the world, but it's, to me, at the end of the day, like I said earlier, if other people can get some sort of enjoyment or something out of it, then it's a win. And so I think the biggest way it's shaped my life is just being able to put a smile on somebody's face, or make somebody think about something, or have somebody else's creative juices flow because of something goofy I did or something I created.
That's awesome. The very much the same thing could be said about this show. The quality is questionable, but at least there's some passion behind it.
Well, I like I said, I mean, when I listened to it, I was dying. I mean, it was like, because you guys were hitting on everything in such a perfect way, because it wasn't like you just shitting on it just to shit on it.
No,
Right.
no.
It was you were mocking it because it's mockable. And that's where it was like, oh my God. That's why I had to reach out, because I'm like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
Well,
Yeah,
I guess
that
we were genuinely responding to something that was genuinely put together.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. It's the tagline of this podcast.
I might have to use that line in the next movie.
I do believe that one of the things Brian said was that it's kind of like Evil Dead 2, but he was comparing it to something completely unrelated somehow.
I think there was more to that context.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you guys shut that down real quick after he said that.
But then I compared it to Jaws, so I
Yes.
think we're all guilty of something here.
God. Yeah. No, it's it's fun stuff, man. I tell you, and again, just kind of talking about it and talking with you guys about it is just fun to me.
Well, and one of the things after you initially reached out to us and the three of us were trying to gauge how much should we engage with this person, and I know Brian and I are big fans of the YouTube channel Red Letter Media, and they do a series where they look at B movies that they love, that they hate, and so they had these same conversations where it's so fun to pick apart movies like this, because that's part of the fun of these movies. And as soon as we kind of gauged, oh, he's totally aware of what this is and what it was supposed then that's awesome, because that makes it even better. It's such a better experience for
it
us
makes for
too.
an easier conversation.
Conversation. And they're fun to watch. You just can't go too deep,
No.
But
Right.
And they're great if you have a couple of drinks in you.
Absolutely.
Totally. Wow.
No, I think I think there are people who take their stuff way too seriously, and if you can laugh at it, if you can enjoy it, then life's too short to get all defensive and stuff.
Right.
And it's just so much more fun to laugh about it.
Well, yeah, and I've been an advertising copywriter for 20 years now, and I've had my hand in plenty of creative things that have not turned out at all like I wanted or hoped or so, and that's just part of the process, and that's why it is fun, because you have to overcome these things that you didn't, and that is all a part of creativity of any kind, is those challenges and obstacles, and trying to just put out the thing that is the best that you can, and just put it out there and say, it's not that great, but I made it and it's mine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's the big point of it is it's something that was personal that I wrote and put it out there. And again, I mean, you can hire anybody you want, but you don't know, especially on a movie, you hire actors and actresses and you're stuck with them. I mean, there was a scene where we've got a group of them in a room. So there's the scene where we tell the story three different ways. So you've got Billy and Stacy at the bar, you've got the kids in the house, and you got the cops at the sheriff's station. And that was my way of just trying to break it up, instead of having somebody just give all the exposition. But the kids in the house could not get through the scene. And so they spent, I think, a whole day just trying to get through that. And then we end up with, I think, the guy and the girl that are making out. That guy was the boom operator. So because we had so a lot of people in the Harvest Fest party too were like part of the crew because we needed to fill, but yeah, so again, you can hire people, but you never know what kind of performance you're going to get, and it's different if somebody is auditioning in front of you, and then you second they're on set and you turn on the camera.
Yeah,
it's like all bets are off, and it's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Well, and then half of acting is just being able to do anything on cue, whether or not, to tune all that stuff out and just plunge forward. So that's amazing. So now, go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say any, other funny behind the scenes stories worth sharing.
I think so on Harvest, obviously the main thing, the best one was the corpse breathing and her running topless forever. We had to reshoot that.
Oh no.
Because the first time we shot it, and this might sound ridiculous, was too dark, because in the final one is super dark. Like when they're sitting, so we just couldn't get it right. But it was a cold night. And it was like, okay, just start running. And again, they're like running through the woods. Like, it's not like we had a path cleared.
Yeah.
And then the killer tries to hit her with a guitar and whatever. So that was good. I think the fact that they just treated us like the Hollywoods. One night, we were done shooting. I'm still wearing my sheriff's costume. It was actually Clackamas County Sheriff official uniforms that we had.
Oh, really?
And I go through the drive-through, and the guy's like, "You have a good day, officer?" and I'm like, yeah. I mean, I look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, is this legal? Should I be driving around dressed as a Clackamas County Sheriff? But yeah, that was fun. Path of Evil. Also, we shot at Wapato, the jail that has never been opened, that was $55 million, just wasted or whatever. But that was super cool to just kind of hang out there and shoot there.
Yeah.
It was fun to do. And then just the basic stuff that just, you think you're shooting a good movie or a good scene, and then somebody just blows it, in the middle of it, and you just like have to redo it, and then you just don't have that same feeling again. I also didn't realize, since it was my first acting gig, that when you're doing a scene where you're eating food, you're not supposed to be eating all the food, because like my plate changes, like the food on the plate changes, because I'm just eating breakfast, and it's like okay, whatever.
10,000 waffles later.
Yeah. So that's kind of crazy. When I worked on Cabin Fever, we're out in Malala, and the final scene, they had the police and the firefighters and all these people there, and so I grabbed my Lee Silver uniform, put it on, and the director's like, "Oh, you look awesome. I'm going to give you some lines, and I'm going to put you in the movie." So I'm going to now work and do a couple lines for Cabin Fever, which I ended up becoming SAG eligible after that.
Oh, nice.
But this is talk about like a bigger budget movie versus Harvest of Fear. So we've got multiple cameras, and the scene is the shed is on fire, or they're putting the shed out. And I'm standing kind of in the middle, and the camera is looking right at me. And on the other side, we've got the firefighter with a fire hose. So they go, action. I do my line. The water is shot over my head and directly at the camera. And so they basically took out a camera with a fire hose. So I kind of, so that scene went away. So I didn't get my 2 minutes of fame on that one. But, and then I also found Bigfoot tracks one night on set. It was about 2 a.m. Everybody was at set. I was at base camp, and I was walking back, and I look down, and I see like this looks like a Bigfoot print. And so I took a picture of it, and then I took my shoe off and sat it next to it and took a picture of it. And I don't know if it was a track or not, but it definitely looked like one. And
wow,
it wasn't anywhere else, but you could see toes and the whole thing. So
Wow.
That was kind of a cool little experience.
Well, you may be interested in a little movie called Sasquatch: The Legend of Bigfoot, filmed in Eastern Oregon.
Well, I actually I don't want to watch it because I've got one that I've written called Bigfoot 3D, and it's basically Jaws in the woods. So everybody's coming to town, So basically, people get killed by Bigfoot in the woods, and then the mayor, we got to shut this thing down. The mayor's like, no, we got to keep it open because we got the big festival coming up. So it's Jaws in the woods.
Yes.
There's a real festivals through line in your work. When they have your career retrospective, there'll be a whole.
And the fact that there's really no festival in any of the movies, which I think is great.
And I'm going to ask one more question about Harvest of Fear that I could never figure out. So there's the older man, kind of hillbilly guy that has the son that you see every now and then.
Yes.
His own son is in jail.
Wally.
Is this yeah. And the old man has the knowledge that can set his own son free, but chooses not to, and then just ends up getting killed at the end by the killer. Was there a puzzle that was missing that I'm not connecting? What his motivation for not telling what he knew?
No.
Okay.
Perfect.
No. He literally could have ended the movie after his opening monologue about the small town by just revealing who the killer is.
Devil's Lake, a place that people were killed by the coroner. The end.
Yes.
Who was that 15th president?
Hey, that was my little political history thing I had to throw in there. I thought it was a clever
nice.
line. All right.
That was nice.
I thought it was. I liked it. I actually had to research it. But no, yeah, and I love the fact that his other son, who's just out walking the dog at night, because that's what he does, also is like whittling or playing with the doll or
that
like
doll's
just
hair.
Give him something to do.
Yeah. And the sheriff goes to him, to the old guy, just to get his answers, but leaves with nothing.
Yeah.
Other than another riddle. Who has the most to gain?
Oh, so funny. Well, is there anything else you want to, what's coming up with you, how we can find out more about your projects, all of that?
No, I think that like with Hands of Time, having that kind of out there now.
I was going to re-ask about that because I did a quick YouTube search and now I can't find it on YouTube. So is there something that I should be specifically searching for besides Hands of Time movie, Ted Pfeifer? Which seems specific, but maybe,
which seems it should be a logical way to search. I actually now have it on my website as well.
Maybe that's where I watched it.
That can be watched from on realinsiderfilms.com. There's my plug.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
but it's there now too. I've got actually Harvest is on there, Hands of Time is on there, and I think like the first 18 minutes of Path, because that's all I could rip with this free DVD ripper I downloaded.
We know people that can help you.
Yes,
hey,
that may show up on a YouTube channel near me somewhere.
And then Lockdown is on there too. That was a short that I did, and the morning of shooting, we're only doing a 2-day shoot. And the morning of shooting the first day, the lead actor calls me and says, my wife just went into labor. So I can't make it. So I'm like, shit, what do I do? So I said, well, I wrote it. I know the words. So I just played the role.
Oh, nice.
So, but that's independent filmmaking, right?
That's awesome. Well, and both Path of Evil and Harvest of Fear are available at Movie Madness. I don't know if Movie Madness is back open right now yet, but yeah, that's where we saw. That's where we saw it. They're available on Amazon too, if you would like a copy of your own.
And they're merged with all these other weird slasher films, And
I'm assuming it shows up on a lot of compilations where it's like 20 horror movies for $5 or whatever.
And we're not getting a cut of that because we have the rights now back for Harvest.
Oh, wow, nice.
And that's why we're making the third one, because we're like, we'll just release them all and
perfect.
Nice.
Do something like that. So
Trinity.
The trilogy, yeah.
Yes.
Or the Trinity, as Mark just said.
Yes.
The trilogy nobody wanted or asked for.
Awesome. Well, anyone, Brian, Mark, any more things that we're dying to know?
No, I just gotta say that Cabin Fever has been on our list for a while. We haven't gotten to it yet, but when we do, we may hit you back with some more questions.
That should be our Halloween movie this year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I was on set every day of that thing and have got some stories on that one.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well, any stories about Dr. Giggles while we're here?
My brother was working on that. That's how he got me on that. We were filming down at Oaks Park.
Yeah.
My wife and I went down, and she didn't understand the fact that when you're on set, you're supposed to be quiet. And so she got yelled at by the director.
Oh no.
She got the "we'll go when everybody's quiet."
Oh,
And
no.
we looked right over at her. So we were down there as guests, and we got excused pretty quickly.
Oh shoot! What were they filming at Oaks Park?
That was the fair.
Yeah, so they had the
the
mirror thing and the
That's right.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Again, festivals.
oh, I've got this great script that I wrote centered around Oaks Park as well.
There we go. Well, I'm excited to have more Ted Pfeifer in the canon that we can do here. So, well, I really appreciate you getting a hold of us and reaching out and being part of this and coming on the show. It's been really, really awesome, and I'm really, really glad we were all able to do it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I just want to say thank you so much for doing those first two shows, because it definitely put a smile on my face, and I loved the fact, the quotes were amazing. It was just a great listen, and that's what I'm guessing you guys are trying to do, is put something out there that people will enjoy, and you got a huge fan in me. And I'm glad I was able to find it on there, and hopefully you can get a Facebook page again.
Seriously.
Well, that look at that. Look at who's tying a bow on this whole conversation. Who's the writer now?
Yes.
Yeah, so we got our Facebook page taken down. So anyone who usually got their updates through that, I hope you were subscribers and are listening to this. But I don't know if we'll be able to get that back, but we do have all of our shows up at portlandatthemovies.com. We still do have a YouTube page where we post videos of us recording, so you can see this video we're doing right now with Ted. So check that out, but just make sure that you are subscribed to our podcast wherever you can find podcasts, and you won't miss anything. But that's why we are gone from Facebook. I'm bummed because Ted Williams, who is the director of Oregon Film, was always like the first person to like our posts on that. And I'm like, oh no, I hope he was a subscriber. Now he'll never know. So yes, spread the word and just make sure you're subscribed to that. So also, listen to funemploymentradio.com. They're doing new shows every week. Their show last Friday was really, really good, so go back and listen to that. You can hear Geek in the City there, too. Other than that, at some point, I'll add something to the end of this to take us out with. So thank you, Mark, for doing all the tech for this, wrangling this together. And once again, Ted, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Reach out for all of your project needs. You have 3 willing participants right here.
Beautiful.
So awesome. Thanks again. We will talk to you all later.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ted.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Thank you. So, Fun Employment Radio.
Yeah.
So in Geek, so is Scott Daly? Does that name? Yep.
Yes, my good friend Scott Daly. So yeah, Scott Daly used to be Film Fever Radio.
Yep.
And then merged with Geek in the City late 2000s, and then Scott left. Oh, I don't know, 5-8 years ago or something, just because he was too busy. And so now there's Aaron Duran, who was the original Geek in the City guy, and Cable Hashitani, and Denise Espinoza, I think her name is. So they've been, and I think Aaron might have like the oldest podcast in Portland, because he's been podcasting Geek in the City and Film Fever since like 2004 or something like that.
Yeah. I work with Scott at Blockbuster.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I did a cable access show called Mediate, movie review show back in the day, and then he ended up kind of joining that after I left that, and then I think that's when Film Fever was going. So
yeah, I've known Scott for 10 or 15 years now, because we all. Do you know who Rick Emerson is?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
yeah, we kind of all connected through that show, and I did a bunch of projects and wrote a book with Rick and was part of his show and all that. So
And
that's who did the movie. Yeah, that's where Todd the Corpse came from because
Oh,
he's the one who made that
Got
the
it.
whole movie.
Yeah,
So,
because my brother, Rick was doing was it the Ozzy Osbourne?
the one-man show.
he was
Yeah,
he
right?
was he had a band, a one-man show, and there was a bunch of different pieces of music in it, and Ozzy was one of the
Yeah, 'cause
pieces in that.
He interviewed one of my brothers because my brother had won a Ozzy lookalike contest
Oh wow!
back in 1981, and we somehow got hooked up with Rick, and because we used to listen to his show all the time.
Yeah.
And
Hold on, just for 1 second.
And he's gone.
What is he doing?
I am guessing that your brother may be on this tape, which is the companion special features of Bigger
Yep.
Than Jesus, which he was
Yes.
putting together, where they have all of those interviews.
Yes, he would be on that. Yeah,
Oh, funny.
yeah, that's that's cool.
Well, this has been amazing. I really appreciate it, Ted. I'll follow up. I'll send you all the links and stuff like
Awesome.
that
Awesome.
for all of this, and make sure that you have a copy. And yeah, this was great.
Cool. And I'll keep you guys updated
Yes.
on the script, and when we go into production, I'll get you guys out on set, and
That'd be great.
Sweet.
we'll get goofy.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks again.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
All
Ted.
right. See ya.
Bye.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Filled
and
an
so-
hour, which is nice.
That was a strong interview, I felt.
Yeah. How fun if we end up being killed by someone.
That's so amazing.
That'd
The
be
three,
amazing.
we'll just have our cameos will all be corpses like together.
Just us in front of a firing squad.
Yeah, he's killed the show.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks again, Mark, for putting all that together on your end.
I've got 2 WAV files. So it's really interesting. So in Skype, we've got the Skype window with all the videos, and then we've got OBS that is fed from Skype. Each of the videos in OBS looked as I don't have a proof of this yet, but they each looked at a different delay. Like Todd, yours was almost in real time,
Right.
and Ted was like 2 seconds apart. And so we might have some problems.
Well, I was watching that on your screen too, but then I was watching my little thumbnails up at the top of the screen, and those were all in proper sync. So I'm guessing it all comes out in the wash. So
hopefully, cool. Yeah,
Cool.
I'll upload things when I got it.
all right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.